I'm a 32-year-old woman, and I used to think emotional neglect was easier to live with than emotional abuse. It doesn't leave marks. It doesn't scream. It just folds itself into everything. I didn't recognize it for what it was until much later, until I became a mother myself. The house I grew up in was a 2-story colonial with a red door and ivy crawling up the brick columns. People always said it looked like something out of a movie. What they didn't see was how quiet it was inside. Not peaceful, just quiet, like someone had sucked the air out of it and forgot to put it back. My mother didn't yell. She didn't cry. She didn't hug, ask questions, or even react most of the time. I was 7 the first time I told her I was afraid of the dark. She looked at me, deadpan, and said, "Then don't close your eyes. Problem solved." At 11, when my best friend moved away and I sobbed for hours, she told me, "You're not 5. Grow up." At 15, I stopped crying altogether. It wasn't just her words. It was the way she looked at me when I showed emotion, like I'd embarrassed her in a room full of strangers. My father was around, physically, but he lived in the background, always behind a newspaper or a laptop, never saying anything that might upset the balance. I handed over permission slips without explanation. She signed them without looking. We didn't fight. We just existed in the same place, side by side, without touching anything real. By the time I was in college, I stopped even trying to reach her. When I graduated, she showed up late and left early. Her only comment was, "Well, at least you didn't drop out like your cousin." No photo, no hug, no pride. At 22, I packed up my small car and left. I moved 3 towns over, found a job that paid okay, and rented a 1-bedroom apartment that had peeling paint and a creaky floor. But it felt more like home than the house I'd grown up in ever did. I called her once a month. I visited for holidays. We talked about the weather. I built a life without her in it, and for a while it worked. I met someone warm and soft and thoughtful in all the ways I hadn't known I needed. He knew how to listen. He never rolled his eyes. He didn't flinch when I cried during movies, or when I stopped mid-sentence because a memory made my throat close up. We got married in a small ceremony in a garden behind a friend's house. My mother showed up in gray and didn't speak to anyone. She said the music was too loud. 2 years later, I had a daughter. Holding her felt like flipping a switch. Everything that had ever hurt me, every dismissive look, every cold silence surged to the surface. I promised myself I'd raise her differently. I'd name every feeling out loud. I'd tell her when I was scared and when I was proud, and when I didn't have the answers. I'd let her cry. I'd never tell her to stop. My mother came to the hospital the day after she was born. She stood over the bassinet, glanced at her, and said, "Let's hope she's not dramatic like you." Then she left to feed the parking meter. That should have been the last straw, but it wasn't. Life has a way of forcing your hand. When my daughter was 6, my husband had a medical emergency. He recovered, but shortly after, he was offered a job that required 6 months overseas. It was a rare opportunity, and the money would help us finally buy a house. I couldn't go with him. My job wouldn't allow it, and neither would the logistics with school. We had no close friends nearby, and his side of the family was scattered. We needed someone reliable, someone who wouldn't quit halfway through. I hesitated, but then my mother offered. She said it so casually, like she was volunteering to water plants, not raise a child. "I'll take her. You can visit weekends. It's just for a school year." I didn't know what else to do. I said yes. I told myself she wouldn't hurt her. My mother wasn't a monster. She wouldn't scream. She wouldn't hit. She'd just be cold. I could counter that. I could visit. I could call. I could make sure my daughter knew I was there. The first week went smoothly. My daughter liked the yard. She called every night, told me about the neighbor's cat,